how's everybody doing? So, been wanting to do this video. I see this every now and then on YouTube, on other channels. Sword flourishing, or sword spinning. Which, there's nothing wrong with it. People, they'll sit here and they do it really fast, okay? The problem with it is, you don't really learn how to use a sword by doing that. Intentionally we have, it's kind of like a wind up. So, you have the sword in your saya, you draw it out, and it's a one hit, so what you do is you kind of roll it, and then you're going to drop it on basically your opponent's forearm. It's not going to like take the forearm off or anything, but what you're trying to do is just stop your opponent. It's still going to hurt, but that's basically what it is. You just wind it up, drop it. So, because I saw a few people saying you want to get a feel for the sword, do this. Get used to doing this really fast. Just sword flourishes. It's great if you want to do cinematic, like fight scenes. It could be very flashy, very useful because it keeps people engaged. So there's nothing wrong with it, except for one thing. If you do it too much, you wind up taking the risk of damaging the muscles right in here, in your wrist. Okay. So then you start developing carpal tunnel, and if it's not kept in check, what starts happening is that muscle tissue will actually start to waste away. And if people don't believe me on that, I'll have my wife jump on here because she has that issue right now and her muscle tissue is wasting away. Carpal tunnel is due to repetitive movement of the same thing. So if you're sitting here doing this all the time, all you're doing is basically damaging that muscle tissue there, because when you do that, you are kind of stretching those muscles out in there, those tendons. And the more you stretch them, the weaker they get. That's why it's bad to do something that's very repetitive, the same thing over and over again. People go, well, I only do it like, let's say, once a week or once a month, but still, just that amount, you're still stretching those tendons out. And sometimes if you stretch them good enough, you may not be able to feel it, but they're not going back the same way. So, like I said, it's cool to watch, it's cool to see. Just don't do it a lot. Okay, that's my advice. Now, as far as to get a feel for the sword, because this is why I hear people say, oh, you want to get a feel for the sword, just sword flourish, learn how to sword flourish. That's not going to give you a feel for a sword. Because each sword, especially even back in, when you take feudal times of Japan, the Middle Ages of Europe, okay, all swords, since they were made by different smiths, are going to have a different feel, no matter what, okay? Sometimes a swordsmith, it could be from the same swordsmith, same blade style, everything, still going to have a certain feel to it. You can only get it so perfect with the human, hands and eye. It's very difficult. I know because I've had to do stuff like that for working in the metal field for over 30 years. So how do you get a feel for the sword? Well, first off, if you're going to do katas and it's a live edge, always say this, take it slow. Because you got to remember, it's a live edge. Now this is just a propylene bokken. I did a review on this, so it's in my playlist. You can go back and look at it. But take it slow. But even if you've done the move, let's say if you've done this kata move or European Hema move 20 times, 50 times, 100 times, you know inside and out, you still want to take it slow. The reason being why I say that is because each sword has a different feel to it. It has a different balance to it. So the best way to know how to get a feel for it is by doing it. So like this has a totally different weight, of course, because it's polypropylene from a real blade, obviously, and from a bokken. I would say it's almost equal to a bokken, not quite, feels a little bit lighter than a bokken, but it's more durable. You know, even though our bokkens are durable, they're oak, so they'll hurt if you get hit. But anyways, you want to learn how to get a feel for a sword, just practice the moves. Practice all the time. And then just, this side is not made for this. See how it handles. That is the best way to find out how to get a feel for a sword. Like I said, I've seen some people say you want to do sword flourishes to get a feel for it. All that's doing is just spinning the sword. If you need to spin the sword to feel the weight of it, you're probably not gripping the sword properly, because not all swords do you grip like this. People call it the handshake grip or pistol grip. Shape. Anyways, Japanese, that's how you hold it. In some European swords, you hold it the same way. Some you may hold it like that with some European swords. Okay? But most Asians, you're going to hold it like that. Why? Because it gives you the most range of motion with your wrist. Because you can flick it. If you're like this, you can kind of flick it, but you'll feel a tension in the bottom of your wrist. Okay? But if I change my grip, my range of motion is a lot more, and you don't feel that tension as much anymore. So, what is this what's the conclusion of it? If you want to do sword flourishes, great. Of course, if it's a live edge, be extra careful with it, because you can make a mistake, sword go flying out of your hand. Okay? But the best way to get a feel for a sword, use it. Just use it. That's the best way to get. Now, like some Japanese swords are more front heavy, okay, to assist with cutting. I've heard, not an expert, in European swords, the weight is more towards the handle on some swords. Okay, and I can see that, because maybe you can get a faster reaction with it. I don't know. I don't own any European swords. I still have to get some. But from my experience, this is just my experience. I'm not an expert in swordsmanship. I'm still a trainee. Just use it to get a feel for it. After you've used variations of swords, it should become almost second nature when you pick it up. And you can feel how it might handle in the hands. Okay? But this is not until you've handled quite a bit. If it's your first time, it might feel like some Japanese swords, like I said, oh my god. If the front is feeling extremely heavy, that point of balance is probably way too far out. On average, your point of balance wants to be about 4.5. You could push 5. But if it's past that mark, it's, even for me, it's going to be very, very overruly. It's going to be hard to control. Because that point of balance is so far out there that that front wants to keep going on you. And you really don't want that. Because when you cut, if you come down here and then you cut, you want to kind of stop right here. You don't want to be all the way back here. I mean, you can cut and stop right here. This is why you always, the opposite leg's always behind you. But the best, from what I learned, the art that I learned, when we cut, we stop the blade right here. And the only reason being is you can deflect quicker. That's why. Because if I'm back here, it takes me longer to get back here. But if I'm right here, I can deflect way faster. So just use the sword. You know, just use it. And if you don't know where to get a start, like you're just getting into swordsmanship, look at books. Books are fine. YouTube's a great place to find them, how to learn moves. But if there's books out there that you can kind of like mimic the moves. Some will give a detail, not a lot, but I would suggest just look on YouTube. You know, Cossacks, I think I pronounced it right, in Russia, they do sword flourishings, but it's for a reason. It's more like a dance that they're doing when they do the sword flourishes, and they've been practicing for a long time. But if you watch those videos, some of the old timers, you'll notice on some of them, they actually do have a wrist support on their hand to try and give it support. Or it's because they've done it too much and it's damaged. So, would it hurt to maybe wear a wrist support when you're learning how to use a sword, or when you do practice with a sword? It wouldn't hurt. Oh, really? Everybody, say hi to Maple. Say hi, Maple. She's getting big. She's getting very big. Look at that tail. Look at that tail. Hi, Maple. So anyways, I just thought I would put that out there, guys. I'm going to have more videos with some techniques. Okay, Maple, there you go. And whatnot. But if anyone's telling you, learn how to sword flourish to get a feel for your sword, that's not going to tell you how to do it. It's not going to tell you how to get a feel for it. Practicing with it, cutting with it, doing the moves with it, that's going to tell you how to get a feel for the sword. And really, after like a couple days, maybe even a week, especially if you're new, it shouldn't take you that long to get a feel for the sword. You know, I have some that I do have my favorites. Because they are so great in the hands to handle with. Doesn't mean the other ones are garbage. It's just I have some that I favor more because they handle so well in the hands. That's why. So for beginners, you're going to find those swords. And it's just, like I said, it could be the same sword maker. That one came out just a little bit different. You know, and you go, oh man, this one's way better. I like this. I can control it. I can move it. I can stop it when I need to stop it. So, that's all I got for you guys. You can take it, you can leave it. It's just my opinion. Just thought I'd throw that out there. And we'll see you on the next one.